Welcome to the Bear in Global channel. Armed forces of Ukraine calls on the Belarusian and Russian soldiers to surrender. Tension rose in the north and east. It was stated that after the southern front was taken under control by Ukrainian army, hot clashes started on eastern and northern fronts. Coordination of Russian army was completely broken. Russian soldiers fleeing to Belarusian side want to get help from the Belarusian army. Ukrainian army has deployed part of its troops on the northern front. War could break out at any moment in the north. On the other hand, Ukrainian soldiers made great progress on the southern front and reached the Dnieper River. Not all Russian troops were able to withdraw from the area. Very critical events are taking place on the Dnieper River. In this process, Russian army suffered more losses than ever before. The Russian army suffered the most casualties in 11 days today. Moscow's losses since the beginning of the war reached 80,000. The Kremlin government can no longer find a solution. The fate of Ukrainian war can be determined in a very short time. United States and NATO announced that additional aid packages will soon reach Ukraine. Shortly after these statements, Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that cooperation with Russia would continue. The statements made greatly increase the tension between East and West. In the operations launched in the morning, a Russian command center was destroyed. According to the first statements, Russian armies suffered great losses. Ukrainian defenders struck a Russian command post near the city of Venahadar in Zaporizhzhia Oblast, as well as a Russian headquarters in the village of Cherveny Mayak in Kherson Oblast. In addition, a Mi-8 helicopter belonging to Russian army was destroyed in the Zaporozhye region. As a result of the attacks on the command centers, 90 Russian soldiers were neutralized. In addition, one more Kar-52 helicopter was destroyed. Then attacks were carried out on Russian headquarters in Kherson region. As a result of the attacks carried out in this region, 40 Russian soldiers, 3 tanks and 6 transport trucks were destroyed. Ukrainian army has made tremendous progress. Russian troops began to have great problems crossing the eastern bank of the Dnieper River. In this process, no one expected Ukrainian army to advance so quickly. General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed that as a result of a successful offensive on the Kherson front, Ukraine regained control of 12 cities, towns and villages on the 9th of November. As a result of the successful attack of Ukrainian army on Kherson front, a total of 12 cities, Dudcheny, Piatykhty, Borodinsk, Sadak, Bezvodny, Ishenka, Kostromka, Krasnolubetsk were liberated from Russians. In addition, in the last 24 hours, Ukrainian armed forces neutralized all Russian troops stationed in Novoselivsk, Myazazarivka, Makiivka and Bilohorivka in Luhansk Oblast, as well as Vesel, Solder, Bakhmut, Andriivka, Krasnohorivka, Opiatin, Pervomaysky, Nevelsk. Environment. Russian forces carried out 1 missile attack and 17 air strikes in the last 24 hours, as well as nearly 100 attacks using multiple rocket systems. Ukrainian air defense systems successfully stopped 86 out of 100 attacks. Russia suffered a record number of casualties in this process. Ministry of Defense of Ukraine announced that Russian army lost 989 soldiers in one day. Russian army suffered its greatest losses since the beginning of the war. According to the statements, Russia lost 989 soldiers, 15 tanks, 16 armored vehicles, 2 helicopters, 17 tankers, and 15 artillery systems. Russian troops suffered the heaviest losses on Bakhmut front. Ukrainian army appeals to Russian and Belarusian soldiers. After Russian army suffered so many losses, the soldiers fighting in Russian army began to surrender to Ukrainian army and flee from the front. Ukrainian armed forces, unite if you must join Putin's war against the Ukrainian people, and you have no choice but to cross the Ukrainian state border and follow Putin's orders. Turn off the engines of your armored vehicles, unload your weapons and wait for the Ukrainian representatives. Shortly after the statements made, 45 Russian soldiers surrendered to Ukrainian army. Kiev and Rus announced that he would guarantee the soldiers' health, shelter and food. The surrendered Russian soldiers will soon be able to return to Russian soil. Ukrainian side assures that Belarusian soldiers will be able to return to Belarus or lead a good life in Ukraine. Belarusian weapons and military equipment will be stored in Ukraine in special warehouses and parking lots. Ukraine has promised to extradite them when the war is over. Russian soldiers are also asked to surrender. They are guaranteed to abide by the Geneva Convention and will be able to return home when the war is over. Otherwise, anyone who wants to fight Ukrainian army can stay at the front. While the Russians are withdrawing from Kherson, they are advancing by damaging the area. Russian troops are launching attacks on dams and bridges in the region to slow the passage of Ukrainian army and damage Ukrainian territory. Satellites of the Maxar Technologies company detected the destruction of crossings and bridges in Kherson Oblast, as well as the collapse of a dam in Novokakhovka. In addition, a bridge over the Inhulets River in the settlement of Darivka was destroyed to the northeast of the Antonivka Road Bridge. It was also observed that the Antonivka Railway Bridge was destroyed. We can say that these illegal attacks of Russian army drove Kiev away from the negotiating table. However, Russia has expressed its willingness to negotiate with Ukraine. After the negotiations, the Russian troops withdrew from the southern front. However, while the Russian soldiers retreated, they attacked many areas on the southern front. This will prolong the war in the region. After the attacks, United States President Biden made statements. Before leaving the White House for a visit to North Africa and Asia, Biden spoke to reporters and answered questions. Asked whether his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping would be fruitful, Biden said, "I believe my negotiations have always been fruitful." Biden on what the solution will be in Russia-Ukraine war, "I don't think the conflict will be resolved without Putin leaving Ukraine. China's support and cooperation with Russia has damaged relations between the West and East. However, China says it will continue to cooperate with Russia. As you know, China does not officially support Russia. But intelligence reports show that China is secretly aiding Russia. Chinese side said it has good relations with Russia." Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Cao Lixian said that his country's relations with Russia are solid as a rock, that this cooperation does not target any country and is based on mutual respect and trust, stating that the long-term, healthy and sustainable development of relations between Lixian, Beijing and Moscow is mainly based on a high level of mutual trust between the two countries. Cao said, China is ready to contribute to cooperation with Russia. China's direct support to Russia can lead to different problems. Because United States, NATO, and European countries announced that they would impose direct sanctions on countries that helped Russia. In this process, Iran and Belarus sent support to Russia. However, as a result of the aid sent by Iran and Belarus, many sanctions were imposed on the two countries. China's sending of official aid will cause major problems between East and West. The tension continues to increase day by day. We have come to the end of another video. We will continue to convey the events that took place in the coming hours to you quickly and accurately. We continue to report the events objectively to you. You can like the videos to support us. You can also subscribe to the channel to make it easier to follow new videos. I wish you all happy days. See you.